Hello everybody. Section here is on sedimentary rocks. So here we have the last step in our process. We've weathered, say, mountainside, bring it down as erosion, we deposit it as sediment, and finally we turn it into rock. Lith means rock, so lithification, turning something into rock, making it rock. This is our process of making sedimentary rocks. We're going to talk about a couple steps here, right? We deposit it, and we compact it, right? Get it really tight, really compact, and then we put some sort of cement in there to stick it all together. And this is going to show you the last two steps here. So we have our original loose sediment here, and water and air and all sorts of other things in there. Right? Pore space, this is air. We have this, which is slowly buried as more sediment comes on top of it. Sometimes this can be considerable, tens, hundreds of feet, all pressing down on it and getting rid of that pore space, squeezing them together here. And eventually it squeezes them so hard that it starts to expel all the water. The pressure builds up to be too high, the water leaves, and as it is expelled, it leaves behind some of what was inside the water as little cement. So little, think of this as little bits of building material which are between the rocks, sort of binding them, holding them, gluing them together. We're going to talk about three types of sedimentary rocks corresponding to our three types of sediment: biogenic, chemical, and clastic. So biogenic come from living organisms, right? Life generated, come from plant and animal remains, including anything which animals might have made. Bones, shells, teeth, plant leaves. Some of the common types, we're going to show pictures of these if you don't want to read. We have coquina, lithification of shell material, and coal. We have layers of plant material which are laid down at the bottom of bodies of water which don't move all too much and get buried without too much bothering. There's something there to disturb it. It might look like this. So even if you knew nothing about geology, you look at this, you might think, okay, we have little bits of shell which somehow, someway have been stuck together by a little bit of rock glue, a little bit of binding agent here to make this rock. And with coal on this one, it's nice, you can actually sort of see the little layers which might have been laid down. Again, you want to think about plants being laid down, all this sort of plant material at the bottom of a swamp. It's never disturbed, it's not exposed to oxygen, it just keeps getting buried and buried and buried. We're going to talk about chemical sedimentary rocks. So you have a lake which is extremely salty for whatever reason. And it evaporates, and what it leaves behind is a bunch of minerals, little rock salt. Now, you might also see it leave behind rock gypsum, sort of a cousin, something which is left behind by evaporation of whatever body. You can also have limestone left behind, calcite. So you think of cement and concrete, limestone is actually a big part of what goes into this. It's made up of calcium and carbon and oxygen. It's actually very common as well in things like animal shells. So here we can see a photo of something like rock gypsum here and limestone over on this side. We'll also talk about clastic sedimentary rocks. This is by and large what we're going to be looking at for the most part. This is lithification, so rock forming of rock fragments. Little bitty clasts, pieces of grains. You think of sand at the beach. Going in order here from largest grain size to smallest, so big pieces to small pieces. Start out with conglomerates. These are large. They have round, gravel size or larger clasts, so bigger than sand. Little grains which you can actually see with the naked eye very, very easily. Large and round little pebbles. You have breccias, which are like conglomerates, but they are angular. These are not round things. These are sharp, little, jagged, tiny gravel-sized rocks in there. Not too tiny. Sandstone. These tend to be grittier. Think of like sandpaper. Tend to have a lot of quartz in these, generally speaking. And you have mudstones, getting even smaller here, a little less gritty, and then finally shale, which is not so much like sandpaper. Very, very fine material in there. And it has this layered structure. So here you can see a picture of a conglomerate. You have these rounded, variable size, but somewhat large little grains there, which are being stuck together somehow, and sandstone. So the grains are not tiny, tiny grains, not sub-microscopic, can't even see them no matter what you do size, but also small enough that you would have trouble seeing these with the naked eye. You might need a little bit of magnification to pick these out. Next section, we're going to talk about sedimentary structures.